You are watching the Fayetteville Government Channel. Up next, full coverage of the latest meeting of the Telecommunications Board. The Telecommunications Board is composed of citizen volunteers and meets on the third Thursday of each month. This board advises the City Council regarding telecommunications issues and assists city staff with the administration of the city's public access, education, and government television channels. And now, the Telecommunications Board.
Noting the presence of a quorum, I'll call the February 16, 2012 meeting of the Telecommunications Board to order. First order of business, well, the next order of business is a roll call.
Oh, I did not put the roll sheet in here, but I'll write it down.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay. Mr. Smith is here.
Here.
Mr. Ehrig.
Here.
Mr. Goggans.
Here.
Noted that Mr. Spencer told me he would not be here tonight. Mr. Shepard is not here at the moment, but will be joining us, I assume, in a few minutes.
He didn't inform me that he would not be here.
Okay.
So status is unknown.
And I should know my board members. Mitchell Spearman is not here right now. Hopefully they'll join us later. Next item is approval of the January meeting minutes. Everybody had a chance to look at those. Any changes, additions, deletions, or motion for approval?
I make a motion to approve it.
I have one addition, I think.
Okay.
Under old business 6A, where I move that we strike the process for appealing an action of the board. Just an explanation, that's because we're an advisory board. It's not that we want to cut off anybody's access there. There's just no mechanism for right of appeal from an advisory commission.
Any objection to the insertion of that language? Then it is so ordered. Is there a second for approval of the minutes as amended?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of the February meeting agenda. Mr. Smith, I think you had a new item.
I did under new business. Would like to have a discussion of political campaign coverage by the government channel and the public access channel.
Is there a second?
Second.
If there's no objection, we'll add that.
I was trying to think if we need a second. Anyway, and I sent you a suggestion about inviting the speaker to one of our future meetings.
Yes.
Does that need commission action?
I don't think so. We can talk about that. We'll do that under committee reports.
Thank you.
All right. Discussion. All right. Any other changes to the agenda? Okay. Any objection to approval of the agenda as written or as amended? If not, so ordered, and we'll move into number 5, reports. First from the Television Center Manager, Mr. Giesler.
That's me. Okay, the first thing, I have several just individual items to cover. We haven't had anything really particular of note that has happened last month regarding the operations of the government channel itself. There's some things that have come up in terms of the access channels overall and the television center that I wanted to share with you, get feedback, and also ask a couple of questions of how you might want us to move forward on this. The first item in your packet you'll see is an email that was forwarded to us through, actually the city clerk was kind enough to forward this to us. It's interesting to see how different information comes from different places, but there's going to be a webinar entitled How Broadband Access in Santa Monica Has Impacted Local Economic Development. And it will be Wednesday, February 22nd from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which would be 1 to 2 p.m. our time. This email has contact information in it, so if any of you would be interested to attend that webinar, you can contact the email address on this printout, or I can forward you an email that has a link to it. I thought it was appropriate for this board to have an opportunity to attend this free webinar, because broadband access is an issue, a telecommunications issue that might have an impact on and how it has had an impact on economic development. So I wanted to bring that to your attention.
Yeah, I think Siloam Springs is looking at providing public broadband. Has anyone?
I haven't heard anything on that specifically, but I think they
I don't know any details. I think I just read a letter to the editor saying what a terrible idea it was.
I don't know, it might give people access to something they're not supposed to see, who knows. The next thing that you'll find is, last month you asked if we had some audience metrics for some of our programming distribution methods, and actually we do. Now, we cannot get audience metrics from Cox Communications. As I said before, they consider those numbers to be proprietary business information, and won't share those with us in terms of our viewership of our government channel, our public access channel, and our education channel. However, our Granicus system is a video on demand system that where all of our meetings are stored and served to the public. And what you'll see on that, these are meeting videos, and we do have some still on Granicus. We do still have some informational video programming and other items of interest that we are in the process of moving from Granicus to YouTube, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But as you can see on here, in the month of January, these metrics are for the month of January, the top 10 programs that were viewed. The Today in America 5-minute promotional piece was viewed 63 times in the month of January. And that was, that piece is linked from a lot of different sources. Emails go out, newsletters go out, and those links, there are links that are included that will link to this view. So that gets a lot of hits. And then the next one is a city council meeting from January 17th, which I found really interesting and educational for us, that our city council meetings do get watched over and over again. In this case, 25 times in the month of January. So it was actually only for 2 weeks, from January 17th to the end of January, that city council meeting got replayed 25 times by people going to that, the Granicus archive and viewing that.
Would that count the people who were watching it online streaming? Or?
No, that's for people who went and after the meeting was over and watched the archive itself. And now in the total viewers report for the month of January, you'll see that we had a total of 461 views of all the different programs that are available on our archive, and that's pretty extensive. I mean, some of our meeting archives go back multiple years. And then it's interesting to note, for example, in a couple of places where you see some spikes sometimes, you try to go back and say, well, wonder what happened on January 13th, that day we had 54 people view things from our archives. And on January 19th, we had over 40, looks like about 41. But that could be explained by people going back and watching the January 17th city council meeting again. So like I said, it's interesting to look at the calendar and see these things, but this gives you a good idea of what people are watching from the Granicus system. And then the next 2 pages are from our YouTube channel. Now, the city of Fayetteville, Arkansas has a YouTube channel, and it is all the letters crunched together, City of Fayetteville AR. And if you go to YouTube and you do a search for City of Fayetteville AR, you get a channel. And we publish every non-meeting video that we produce to our YouTube channel. And we can get some really nice metrics and analytics from YouTube. For example, it shows us that we have people that have watched video on our YouTube channel from Canada, Brazil, Italy, United Kingdom, in addition to, of course, the United States. There are, you can see where the top traffic sources are, which are mobile apps and direct traffic. That means the videos were watched on a mobile, either through a YouTube mobile app on an iPad or a smartphone, or somebody on YouTube directly. The YouTube watch page, 63% of our viewers are looking at the YouTube watch page. Mobile devices, 16%. And I think you're going to see that number increase as the months go on. That 16% of mobile devices are top playback locations. The gender numbers are interesting to look at only from a standpoint that only reflects people who have actually signed in with their ID, and so they have a profile that indicates their gender. You can watch these videos without being signed in under your user ID or anything like that, and it still counts, but the only thing that they can pull the gender from are people that have logged in. Again, I pulled these numbers for the month of January, and you'll notice that while the Today in America piece was viewed 63 times off of our Granicus system, it was viewed 463 times from the YouTube channel. Fayetteville History Minute, which got uploaded for this one for City Hall, and as you're aware, we have lots of History Minute episodes. This one is the second to the newest, and it had 114 views. And then we have different things. These are the top 10 archives that people have looked at. For example, the Mayor's Corner with Dara Sanders had 15 views. The Shelter News might be that code over there. But in total, where we had a total of, we'll stop here in a minute, a total of 461 viewers on our Granicus service, we had 951 from YouTube. So we're having almost 1,500 viewers access our video programming from the government channel of our video on demand. And as I said before, I think you're just going to see that grow more and more as time goes on. And I hope that these, I'll continue to submit these reports every month with the Government Channel and Television Center report, and I think I hope that you have found them to be informative. Any questions about those?
Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. I'm glad we got it. I'm glad we have them. I would love to have more.
I just briefly note for the record that Mr. Shepard's joined us.
Okay. The next item that I had, this came in late. I actually received this only a couple of days ago. It's a handwritten note by a subscriber, a Cox subscriber. He did sign his name, Danny Wright. And I wanted to present it to the board because I didn't know whether we would want to pursue this as a formal complaint. He doesn't actually say, please do something, but I'm asking for the board's guidance on how you might want me to respond to this or not. But I will say, as you're reading it for the public watching the meeting, that the gist of his note is that he's upset that as a Cox subscriber, he feels like they continue to reduce the number of channels that he receives, while continuing to charge him the same amount of money.
So I'm guessing he doesn't have digital.
No,
Okay.
I would not think so. I have not contacted Cox regarding this. Like I said, I only got it a couple days ago, so I wanted to bring it to the board
Mhm.
for discussion before.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we hear that often, different places, different groups speak. So I think his is probably typical. No telling how many have not been. They never got the message that, I'm sorry, a lot of people didn't get the message that they were dropping the PEG Center Channel 3 that existed at that time. And they did not hear that they could get a free box for 2 years. I mean, we talked about it in this meeting for months, and at this point, I guess all we can do is say we feel his pain, because we do. I mean, I miss some of the things I used to have, and I certainly don't shop on television, so I don't need the extra shopping channels that are on there. And there are lots of things that each person, each family can do without that is on there, and things that we'd like to have. I'm sorry we weren't able, when the Cox changes, dropping the lower tier public channels occurred. I'm sorry we didn't have the power to do something about it. It was sort of, I've said before, they sort of sneaked it in on us. Other people said, no, they didn't. We knew it was coming. But most of us didn't. And to the general public, it's still something that was sneaked in without their being asked. So it would be nice if we could offer something, but I don't know at this point what it would possibly be.
I think you might at least advise him where he could find the content that we're on 14, 16, and 18 before. And that the city has no authority to regulate rates of cable companies.
Are the free boxes still available? I know it was a 2-year deal.
No.
It's
No.
no longer.
It runs $5.97 a month
Okay.
for us with analog sets. It only covers one of my 2 analog sets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I see this, and I understand that Cox has a very good mechanism for resolving disputes. I see that he has not asked us to resolve a dispute for him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a comment. And I would say we shouldn't do anything.
I'm sure Lindsley appreciates being the target of disputes.
Yeah.
Are you saying not even acknowledge his complaint?
At your discretion.
It was sent directly to my office.
Oh, it was? Okay. In that case, yeah. Please be advised that Cox has a very efficient.
Give you a coupon for $1 off a burger somewhere.
I do know for a fact that for a few dollars more, you can get lots of channels.
I understand that.
Was this the only complaint?
This is the only complaint that we have, or anything, or comment that we've received. Couple of, if we're finished with that, a couple other things that I would just, that I'd like to bring to your attention. We've introduced, premiered a couple of new programming items on the government channel. We're producing a series of very short information pieces. They're 15 seconds long, but there's a big series of them. We have, and we're doing themes with them. The first 2 are the green your sustainability tips and what we call shelter bits, and they're just short pieces of information that people can use to enhance their lives and help their relationship with their pet or something like that. We intersperse them, we just sprinkle them all about the schedule And so if you're just watching the government channel, you're probably apt to see one of these little 15-second things pop up that say something like, if you've lost your pet, call this number. Or, you know, if you use a CFL type light bulb, you'll save us a bunch of electricity. And we're going to introduce a couple more themes going forward. We've talked about safety, creating a series on safety tips. We're going to work with the police department in creating a series on crime prevention tips, and also a series on just some general stuff for city administration. Did you know that if you're going to sign up for a new water bill, you have to bring a photo ID, something like that. And like I said, we'll sprinkle those all throughout the schedule. And the last item that I'd like to, that I need to bring to your attention is that the city administration is now in the process of developing its 5-year capital improvement plan, what we call the CIP. And the capital improvement project plan is where division managers such as myself look at our operations, and we put together a budget that proposes what, not for operations, but for what we need to foresee spending money on to improve our equipment and facilities. They're capital expenditures as opposed to operational expenditures. We'll be putting together that plan over the next 30 days. I'll have an opportunity to discuss it with all of you at the next meeting. It's due March 23rd, but I would very much welcome input from all of you individually as this time goes forward. If you have some thoughts or input that you'd like to discuss with me about the various things. There's a lot of things we're looking at as to going forward with the television center operation. Including things such as what are we going to do about what we're calling the sunset of analog sunset. In other words, analog TVs are going away. Analog television production is essentially non-existent anymore. It's very difficult to get equipment. The equipment that is available is much more expensive because nobody's using it anymore, so there are very few manufacturers of it. So what do we have to be looking at in the next 3 to 5 years to convert our operation from an analog production facility to a digital production facility? What's it going to cost? How are we going to? What can we do to do that? And where is that plan taking us? Where can we see the public access operation being in 5 years? Where can we see the government channel distribution? Are we going to be still worried about a cable channel, or are we going to be completely off of cable, or are we going to be on something else? Video on demand. Live streaming on the internet, those kinds of things. We don't know. Those kinds of things are difficult to anticipate, and that's why I would welcome input from this board in terms of trying to develop some of those things. But it makes a big difference when we start to think about spending hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next 5 years to maintain the viability of our television center and our government channel operation and our public access channel operation. So please let me know what your thoughts are as we go forward. Like I said, my plan is to have this this ready to submit by our next board meeting, so you'll have it to look at as well, and to be able to advise the city council, because that's one of the things I think they'll be looking to you for as well when we're talking about spending significant amounts of money on this operation. Is they'll be looking for your advice on that as well. That's all I have this month. Any questions about anything?
You have a question. You're having conversations with their contractor and their board about what they foresee as a need?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Actually, one of the things that we initiated last month is Leslie Smith, the Director of Communication, and Ann Shelley, the Executive Director of Your Media, and I are having monthly meetings. And we've had one last month, we've got one scheduled for next week, and then probably in March or April, we'll be inviting members of their board to attend and get their input, and then also, obviously, input from this board regarding a lot of those questions, we're trying to look out to the future and see where these things are going. So we're trying to keep the conversation going about all that.
Anything else for Fritz? Not, we'll move on to the Fayetteville Public Access Television Report. Glad to have Dr. Molly Jensen, Treasurer of the Board of Directors of Your Media, with us.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Ann had a day off today, so she was diligently planning on coming to the meeting, and I told her she couldn't, so I'm coming to the meeting. So just briefly, we'll go through the report that Ann created for you, just to hit a few of the highlights. We are in a very positive place in the organization as it relates to the city and as Your Media in general. We had a really great board meeting last month, and we're looking towards really making some significant changes on the Your Media side in terms of reaching out to the community and some of the activities that we're doing. As far as the station is concerned, I'm sure you all are familiar with Flint, and his role has evolved into doing some scheduling, and he is, well, if you don't know him, you should get to know him. He's quite a nice young man and a good worker, and so he's really risen into his new position well. We have some updated signage. I know that the photos for the government channel and the staff, that's all going well with the wall, right, as you walk in?
Oh, yes, one of the things that actually I didn't include in my comments because Ann and her staff actually really they really ramrodded this project. But, you know, we were looking at what we could do to enhance just the physical experience of the television center. And
Kind of the lobby area.
the
right?
lobby area and that public area, and what they did was Flint took several photographs of people working in the edit rooms, in the control room, pieces of equipment, very, very creative and real visually attractive photographs. We blew them up to a very large size, 24 by 36. We found some really good sources Ann found some really places that we could get this work done for. We didn't have to spend hardly any money on this. And then we mounted them in various places on the walls, and it's really made the walking into the television center an even more exciting and welcome addition. So I wanted to, they get all the credit for it. Yeah, we helped, but they're the ones who really made it happen.
So if you haven't gone into the station recently, you should take a few minutes to pop in there and see the lobby. They've created a new short take logo, and we're working on rebranding and promoting the short take service for 2012. I won't bore you with all the numbers, but as you look through the classes and the producers and folks that have been educated in the classes that we have given this month of January, we're on par with last year or better in many cases. And I'm sure you're all aware of, with the new contract, we've gotten a lot more efficient in our hours of service. And you can see that education for the city isn't being harmed in any way, shape, or form by that. As a matter of fact, we're actually improving our numbers because we're open when the people are there. So it's really a win-win for us. We've had no complaints or feedback in general, nothing negative for the month of January. There's a list of all the programs. I'm sure that you all are all familiar with all of those. Our promotional activity at the back, the City Council has approved for us to use the trust fund money. I'm sure you guys are all aware of what that money is. And so we're going to do another round of brochures and some advertising within the free weekly to push the Fayetteville Public Access Television. I can just tell you as a board member, you know, working with the organization, it's funny how what I would tell you is totally different than what Ann would tell you. Like, I would tell you that this year we finally have insurance for our employees, which is a first from what I can tell in I don't know how many years. ever, and it was a huge, it was my first thing when I got on the board. I was like, how do we have an organization with no insurance? It's really not acceptable. So Ann and I put together a budget. We're in the black for the year, and so to me, that's the biggest thing. We have insurance. So I know that's not just part of the Access Television, but for the Your Media side as well. But so to me, that's the biggest thing that we've done. And working within very tight financial constraints as we are, I think what Flint and JR and Ann do is amazing. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I don't know that I can answer them really, but I'd be glad to try.
Well, we get to tell Ann every month how great it's looking over there.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see a board member and tell you that, you know, it's nice to see a well-oiled machine finally.
Yeah. Well, it's very difficult to sit on a board that Ann runs where you aren't forced to work, where you don't volunteer to work, and so but it's really great to work with her, and she has assembled. Outside of myself, she's assembled some amazing board members who, the board meeting we had last month in January, you know, the focus really hasn't been, it's been on growing the nonprofit side, the Your Media side, and some of the things that we do outside of the television station. And we just have some really great active board members, so
Good.
they're very invested in the organization, so it's been great.
Well, we're here for you too. So if there's anything that y'all need from the city council, and you know, we're here to advise them about things like that. So
My just from a board member's perspective, and I'm probably should know more what your role is, but I don't, because you know, I just look at the numbers all the time. But from my perspective, now that we have insurance, I think that our next main push is continuing education for our employees. And so that's what, if you guys have suggestions for that, in terms of technical education or ways to support, particularly JR and Flint, to continue to grow in their, you know, professional experience, and with Ann as well, in terms of being an executive director. So for me personally, that's my big agenda for the year for all three of them, because I feel like, you know, we woefully underpay them for the amount of work that they do, and I feel like, if, you know, giving them insurance is the first step, and now showing that we're continued to be invested in what they do and how well they do it is the next step. And so I don't know if you could play a role in that, but I would certainly be open to us talking about that.
Well, in the past, this board has often asked, is there a way to pay all the employees of the television center board? And that's always been a
Not
struggle.
yet. We have a budget that's in the black, so I can tell you a resolution that the board passed, and I mean, it's not necessarily about the station, so I don't know if you're interested in the information or not, or if it's appropriate for me to share that.
Sure.
Well, so on the side where our mission is to supply and help other nonprofits with their media needs and education, so it's very difficult. We're not really in a position to give raises. So what we're doing is we're working on a bonus system, and for every not grant, but for every paying contract that comes in, all the employees are going to get a bonus, basically. And there's a minimum amount that they can earn up to, I don't even remember what the number is, but it's some outrageous amount. You know, I mean, if we got $1 million contract, I mean, I'll give them all $100,000. Like, you bring in a big contract, you can have it. So, so really, the sky's the limit, and the hope is to kind of, you know, I really can't justify from a budgetary standpoint giving them a raise, because I'm not sure that I can sustain that, and I'm sure you all know that we actually had to give them a pay cut last year to finish out part of the year, and so we've reinstated all the salaries. Our hope is to back up and pay them the money that we could not pay them. We'd like to retro pay them and that's not, as soon as we're able, that will happen, but that hasn't happened yet. And then moving forward, any new contracts outside of the city of Fayetteville's contract and any grants that we get, but any actual contracts, they earn a bonus. And so that way we can give them something, and I don't have to try to, or the board doesn't have to try to sustain a raise, which is not realistic at this point.
Yeah,
but-
it's unfair to set up expectation that can't, you know.
Right, the last thing I want to do is tell them that I have to cut their pay again.
Right.
I mean, I can't tell you how many days I cried about that. I mean, literally, it's an awful thing to tell people that you have to take money away from them when they're woefully underpaid to start with, so.
That's not the same as the Wall Street Deferred Compensation Plan.
No. So it's just, we're financially, we're in a really good spot, and, but we'd like to be better. I'm not happy with it. I'd like for us to be in a better spot.
Anything else? Thanks, Dr. Jensen.
Thank
All right.
No complaints?
you. For me?
No, from the public?
Oh, no, in January, no, sir, no complaints.
All right. Seeing as there is no old business, we'll move into new business. The first is the year-end report from the Fayetteville Public Schools regarding the operation of the education channel. Is that y'all?
No, we're from U of A.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I did not
Huh.
receive any documentation, and I was not, nobody advised me of who would be attending.
Oh, okay.
So
Hmm.
I'm assuming at this point in time that individual is not here to give that report.
Okay.
Well, let's invite them, Mr. Chairman, to contribute anything any of them would like to say.
Could you contact them and request at least a written copy of that report?
Absolutely. I expected to have, I mean, I got no indication there would not be, I mean, that the last contact I had with Ms. Norton at the Fayetteville Public School was that they would have a representative here and tonight to present this report, and she never
Something's just happened.
indicated that it would not.
Right.
So I didn't get an email or anything saying, sorry, we're not gonna be able to make it, or anything like that, so I will contact them tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Shepherd?
we invite the folks who did show up to contribute anything they wish to share with us.
Is there anything y'all want to share with us? Okay. Are you here for a class or
Just kind of
UATV? Anything?
Yeah, we're the social work students.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, welcome. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Hope you'll get trained and make your own programs on public access.
All right. We'll move to B, a discussion of political campaign coverage by the government channel and public access. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I had some questions just to clarify for myself and to make sure that I think that we're all clear on how this is going to work. As I understand, the council has approved the government channel covering candidate interviews with the League of Women Voters. Is that correct?
The government channel policy that was approved by the city council does allow for us to have candidate forum type of programming. With that policy in place, what we have done is set up, because as per policy, it has to be neutral. We'll be utilizing the League of Women Voters who have come to the city and said, we would like to produce a series of candidate forums. And so the government channel will have candidate forums produced by the League of Women Voters. And we haven't finalized the plans for anything. Traditionally, we have done also one with the Fayetteville Council of Neighborhoods, but that is still not solid yet. However, the League of Women Voters, as the organization that will actually conduct the interview or forum, or however you want to categorize the show, the program, but it will be an interview type of program. All the candidates are required to be asked, invited, and those we will produce and telecast on the government channel, because they will invite all the candidates and they will be produced in a neutral manner.
These are for candidates who are to be voted on by Fayetteville
Residents, yes.
citizens.
Citizens. Yeah, yes, Fayetteville citizens can vote.
Okay.
These will be races only.
So we're not going to be covering Springdale or Rogers or
No, sir.
Bentonville.
What about
Texas.
state level?
I don't believe at this time there are any plans to do any for state level candidates. However, we have not finalized all the plans with the league yet.
So, so the league interviews and possibly the council of neighborhood
Might produce one as
will be
well.
produced. Those will be done in 216?
219?
219?
Yes, sir. Downstairs in city council chambers.
Right. Now, the filing opens next week, I think, and goes through March 1st. So we're going to be having, I would assume, candidates requesting use of the public access television to make their views known. They'll have free access to short takes.
If they're a Fayetteville resident, yes, sir.
Right, up to 5 minutes, no censorship, and that includes up until and during the day of the election.
I don't, is it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it does.
Okay. They can also use the message board.
Yes.
And the same criteria apply, that it either has to be, well, it has to be requested by a Fayetteville resident.
Mhm.
Yes.
But if a Fayetteville resident wants to come in and put up messages for something going on in Alaska, they can do that.
Sure. We actually have had programming in the past that was for environmental issues in Montana. So absolutely anything from, if it's brought in by a Fayetteville resident.
Okay. But we don't help them produce their materials, but they could be trained to
Correct.
produce their own television spots or public forum.
Right, so if someone was running, wanting to come in and become a producer, they could certainly check out the equipment and go do whatever it is they wanted to do and produce it. And
Make their own spots and run them on public access
Absolutely.
television.
as long as they're trained under the guidelines of the classes that we have currently.
What if they brought it in as an outside program?
I believe that's okay as
Sure,
well.
as long as it's
As long as they're a
again,
Fayetteville resident.
Fayetteville resident. Yep.
Okay.
Of course, the benefit of becoming the producer is that you have access to the editing bays and the equipment, which is pretty phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think those were the only things that I just wanted to sort of clarify, that those are open and you don't have to be a trained producer to do the short takes.
No, we do the filming at the station. J.R. Flint will does the filming.
All right.
Well, let's tell them what day you can do the short takes, since it's changed.
Yeah, I don't know if I can tell you that, but I can try.
Well,
Why don't you tell Mr. Shepherd, because we see you every time there's one to
Why
be
don't you-
I
taken.
go every
Yeah,
time
that'd
the
be
door's
great.
open, so it's,
Yeah.
it's 11 a.m. till noon on Thursdays, and 5 p.m. till 6 p.m. on Monday evenings. And in each case, they start running whichever day they're made on the following Sunday, I believe.
The
Which
short
actually-
takes, yeah.
Right, short takes. So be there and get in line, because could be a big bunch of people in front of you with the elections coming up. We hope.
Yeah, between now and May 22nd, there'll be
We'd love to see
a
it.
lot of takers.
Anything further on that point? Not, we'll move to 8 committee reports. No committees are meeting right now. But Mr. Smith wanted to make an invitation.
Oh, sure. Representative Ledding, who represents Fayetteville, is a member of the Joint Legislative Committee on Telecommunication and Information Policy, I believe is the name of the committee. And I would like to move that we invite him to attend one of our future meetings and sort of give us a briefing on the types of telecommunication issues that the legislature's looking at, and what we might anticipate in the next few years. Just to bring us up to speed on the types of issues they deal with.
make a motion, we invite Representative Greg Leding to address us on issues related to that committee.
I'll take that as a second.
Or we lose a motion.
Sure.
It took so long.
It'll work as a second.
So, that's a second.
Okay. I think, does the chairman submit correspondence on behalf of the board?
I was going to ask you if you would like to submit that to Representative Leding.
Sure.
Yourself as chair of the board.
Probably just tweeting.
Probably could. He's very techie. Yes, if that's the board's will, I'll send that. All those in favor of the motion to request that Representative Leding join us, hopefully in the near future, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. I'll get that letter out about the same time I get my annual report out. Hopefully soon after we get the Education Channel report, if they have one.
As soon as I get that, I'll forward it to you.
Okay. Any other reports or announcements?
Just like to welcome our newest member to.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Excited to be on the board.
Have they put you through the rough orientation?
It says already, so I think great. Try to get up to speed.
Did you get your certificate suitable for framing?
I did. Yeah.
Lindsley, do you have something?
Oh, well, I'll go ahead and say I was going to say something. Let me just add that since Representative Leding is in the legislature, just realize that they did strike this week. They anticipate 3 weeks, but they can go as long as, a whole month. So just knowing that it might not be at the next meeting. It might be because he's down in Little Rock during the time that y'all would be meeting. It would probably be April. And I don't know if you want to shoot originally for April and get them locked in, or leave it as one sometime soon. Might be advisable to just go ahead and try to get them for this night in April.
Okay, we'll shoot for the third
I
Thursday in
think-
April.
I think the resolution is that they adjourn on
Through.
March 4th. But
You can
that's
leave it up to them.
that's-
Yeah.
Okay,
subject to negotiation. Whatever his schedule.
we'll see.
That
He's
was
around a
before the new
lot.
budget was filed.
Okay. Anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn, sir.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. We are adjourned.
You make your own.